Cortana is a smart AI, meaning her potential is virtually unlimited. It'd be no surprise then that smart AIs seldom ever make a mistake. However, today we're going to talk about one such event where Cortana made a mistake that was not just a miscalculation on her part, but also completely wrote off one of the UNSC's most expensive pieces of military equipment, only weeks after it first saw service, and nearly killed the Master Chief. This video is going to make you look at the lore surrounding two games and the events between two of the games in a completely different light. Roll the intro. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00, and today's video takes us way back into the early origins of the Halo universe. Before the Halo universe was the multi-game series that it's ultimately become, before any of the books that have fleshed out its expansive universe, and before really any of us really knew anything about the Halo universe beyond what the first game told us. But is one of those little slithers of lore that when you look back on it in retrospect, suddenly makes a whole lot of sense and really puts into perspective just how incredible both Master Chief and Cortana really are. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody's actually put these two respective pieces of lore together before and actually realised the ramifications of what these two separate pieces of lore mean. So this might be the first time that this has actually been covered. If it's not, if there's some obscure posts out there that have covered this before, then fair play to you. I haven't come across them in my research, and I did do a bit of digging to find out whether or not anyone had actually put these two bits together before, but alas, let's stop beating around the bush and get to the point in question. Way back in Halo CE, on the level 2 betrayals, the Master Chief and Cortana are reunited within the control room of Alpha Halo, Installation 04. From here, it is revealed that the Monitor was actually taking Chief to the library to get the index, to then bring it to the control room to activate the Halo, which wouldn't kill the Flood, but instead would kill the Flood's food. Humans, Covenant, whatever, we're all equally edible. I'm sure we all remember that line. Upon this realization, the Chief asks if that information is true, and 343 Guilty Spark doesn't beat around the bush. He confirms straight away that it is. This prompts Chief to recover Cortana's chip from the console of the control room and then make way to try to prevent 343 Guilty Spark from attempting to activate the Halo himself. Whilst Cortana was in the control room and as Chief interfaced the index with the core, she copied the information from the index into her own code, effectively stealing away the activation index of Installation 04 from 343 Guilty Spark. The implication here being, from Spark's comments on the subject, that the Sentinels were going to kill the Master Chief, sever his head, at which point efforts would be made to recover Cortana's chip from the back of his helmet and thus then disseminate the code from within Cortana, destroying her in the process, to recover the activation index, so that then 343 Guilty Spark himself could activate the ring. Now, of course, as we well know, the Master Chief managed to fight his way past the Sentinels and get back outside of the control room of Installation 04. At this point, Cortana informed him that due to her immense amounts of knowledge now on the ring that she had absorbed while she was in the control room, she knew that there were essential components in the activation of the ring that could be interrupted to prevent the ring from being fired. In spite of the fact that Cortana herself still possessed the activation index for the Halo, it's possible that 343 Guilty Spark may have known another way to activate the Halo, and thus Cortana insisted that disruption of the phase pulse generators would prevent that from happening. So, Chief and Cortana then go on a little quest around the valleys surrounding the control center to find 3 respective phase pulse generators. Upon coming into contact with each of the phase pulse generators, Cortana manipulated the energy shield systems of the Chief's brand new Mjolnir Mark V armor and made a sympathetic harmonic frequency to mean that him physically interacting with the beam itself would interrupt the beam and shut them down, overloading them. But for a short duration thereafter, his shields would be down and he would be vulnerable. From what we can tell, this particular trick worked flawlessly all 3 times. And once the phase pulse generators had been overloaded and the firing of the Halo at least prevented for a duration, Cortana then insisted that the only surefire way to ensure that the installation wouldn't be fired is to destroy it, and the only way to do that would be to activate the fusion reactors within the Pillar of Autumn and make them go critical, which would create an explosion of over 100 million degrees. Effectively, a massive thermonuclear bomb that would destroy the Halo. But in order to do that, they needed the command override codes from Captain Keyes, whom they were now relatively convinced had been taken by the Flood. Cortana managed to track and triangulate Captain Keyes' IFF transponder and find his approximate location. And right as Chief was about to set off and go and find Captain Keyes, Cortana interrupted. The cutscene plays out as follows.
Let's find a ride and get to the captain.
No, that'll take too long.
You have a better idea?
There's a teleportation grid that runs throughout Halo. That's how the monitor moves about so quickly. I learned how to tap into the grid when I was in the control center. Unfortunately, each jump requires a rather consequential expenditure of energy.
Something tells me I'm not gonna like this.
But I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging your shields. Needless to say, I think we should only try this once.
Do it.
She pulled energy from his suit's micronuclear fusion power plant in order to access the teleportation grid of the Halo. Golden ripples of light cascade across his body, and the Chief is sucked into technically a translocation grid, utilizing stabilized corridors within slip space to another location on the ring. Chief rematerializes aboard a downed Covenant vessel on the other side of the ring. It's upon his materialization, however, that he realizes he's upside down, and he falls rather unceremoniously to the deck. This was not her mistake. The mistake in question was the decision to have Chief interact with the phase pulse generators and access the teleportation grid of the Halo. Everything that follows this within the game seems to go off without a hitch. The Master Chief manages to find Captain Keyes and recover his neural transponder. They take his command key to the Pillar of Autumn and activate its fusion drives to go critical, and they manage to hitch a ride on a longsword and get off of Halo before the explosion kills them. That all goes off without a hitch. In the book First Strike, it actually extrapolates what happens between the end of Halo CE and the beginning of Halo 2. And, in very brief summary, in that book, the Master Chief comes across some other survivors, one of which is our favourite cigar-chomping Marine, Sergeant Johnson. Chief and the survivors, with the help of Cortana, manage to commandeer the ship Ascendant Justice, a Covenant flagship of the fleet in attendance to Installation 04. This ship is then used to return to Reach. Now, normally a Covenant ship being commandeered by UNSC forces and taken to a human colony would have been in direct contravention of the Cole Protocol. However, since Reach had already been found by the Covenant and seemingly already glassed, the Cole Protocol couldn't really be applied here. So the Ascendant Justice, with the UNSC survivors in tow, arrive at Reach. While they're at Reach, the Master Chief manages to locate surviving Spartan 2s, along with Dr. Halsey, within some of the caverns and facilities beneath Castle Base, an area that was so deep underground it had been mercifully spared from being glassed. After the mating together of a UNSC frigate and the Ascendant Justice, UNSC survivors learn of the Unyielding Hierophant, a Covenant refit and refuel station, with an absolutely monumental armada, ready and bound for Earth. With no other options available, they attack the Unyielding Hierophant and manage to destroy it and the vast majority of the fleet in orbit around it. And then following this, they finally make their way back to Earth. And so begins the events of Halo 2, where this cutscene takes place.
The plating was about to fail. There's viscosity throughout the gel layer. Optics, totally fried. And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Tell that to the Covenant.
The plating was about to fail. Well, the armor plating of Mjolnir Mark V had taken a significant beating in the few weeks that Chief had been in ownership of it. It had protected him very well across the campaign of Installation 04 and all of the events thereafter involving Operation First Strike and the destruction of the unyielding Hierophant. So that's not immensely surprising. The viscosity throughout the gel layer, that's usually as a consequence of the gel layer going through excessive thermal cycling. We know full well that the Chief took a lot of plasma fire during the campaign of Halo CE as well as through Operation First Strike. And in spite of his Mjolnir Mark V armor having a crystalline refractive coating to help dissipate and disperse plasma and energy weapon shots, it would still have transmitted an immense level of heat through the armor plating into the gel layer beneath. So this isn't immensely surprising. The big things to take away from this scene, however, are the following two components. The optics are totally fried. The optical suite within Mjolnir assisted the Master Chief in being able to see in low light level conditions as well as magnifying his visor and dealing with intolerably high light sources. From, for example, phase pulse generators. And I'm sure the energy cascades and Trenkov radiation from being transmitted through translocation portals on Installation 04 didn't help them at all. And then the final one, the power supply, which was damaged so comprehensively that they had been marked to be destroyed as they were utterly useless. So now let's just put two respective cutscenes back together again.
But I'm pretty sure I can pull it from your suit without permanently damaging your shield.
The plating was about to fail. There's viscosity throughout the gel layer. Optics, totally fried. And let's not even talk about the power supply. You know how expensive this gear is, son?
Cortana's decision to get Chief to interact with the phase pulse generators and directly pulling energy from his micronuclear fusion power pack in order to access the translocation grid on the Halo damaged his power pack to such an extent that his only weeks old, brand new Mjolnir Mark V battle armor had to be written off entirely. But it goes beyond that. The damage that was accumulated to the power pack of the armor would not have had zero effect on the performance of the suit. It's reasonable, in fact it's logical to expect that immediately following Chief interacting with the phase pulse generators and having energy siphoned from his power packs, his Mjolnir Mark V battle armor was operating with a damaged power source, outputting likely a fraction of the normal power it would be capable of. Which means that everything that took place following Chief's translocation to the ship of which Captain Keyes was aboard, everything that took place from then until the moment he took off his armor and got his Mark VI upgrade, he was operating with a suit of Mjolnir that was ruthlessly damaged and underpowered. Now yes, admittedly in the rest of Halo CE we don't seem to see a performance drop from the Master Chief during gameplay, but again that could just be for gameplay reasons, and of course the law that comes into effect that actually manifests this situation occurring didn't come into play until the start of Halo 2, which meant that it wasn't originally written with this intention. So while the performance doesn't drop of the Master Chief within the rest of the Halo CE campaign, from a lore perspective, and from a physics perspective, based on the fact that he had a damaged reactor in his brand new armor, his suit will have been operating on reduced performance. And the fact that we don't see a reduction in the performance of both his energy shields, his force multiplying circuits, or his speed suggests that Cortana knows full well that she damaged his Mark V suit to such an extent that she began micromanaging many of the systems within his suit, turning off non-essential systems in a desperate attempt to keep the suit operating at peak capacity with its reduced performance. Cortana was pretty sure she could take the energy from his suit without permanently damaging it. She was wrong, and were it not for her desperate attempts to try to keep the platform operating at peak capacity and turning off non-essential systems, could well have cost the Master Chief his life. As it was, Chief's sheer skill and perseverance got him through the worst of it, but it did utterly write off his Mark V armour. And I'd be willing to bet that's not the first, nor the last time Cortana made a mistake that could have cost Chief his life. And until next time. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider smashing the like button and leave a comment below on what you'd like me to cover next. Big shout out to my patrons Spartan10148, the Metarch of my installation, Falcon, Prophet Bear, Mikhail, Sophia, and Ashley, my dutiful monitors, Darian, Scarab, Spartan0137, Anthony, Ghost, Aaron, Chris, Jacob, Sean, Element Zero, Somatic, Jordan J3, Dan, Mr. Keys, Directal, Gunslinger, Jacob, Bandmill, Echo, Evermore, Officer Cat, and Personal Devil, my diligent sub-monitors, my fleet of Strato Sentinels, and my loyal enforcers. And all the other patrons who have jumped aboard to support the channel. It means more to me than I can accurately put into words. Another shout out to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members, Spartan137, Jacob, Schmitty, Talia, Fenrir and Born Stella, and all the other YouTube members keeping my installation running on that glorious vacuum energy. Shout out to John for I don't fucking know. And if you want more of this kind of content, hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon so you don't miss any future videos, and consider jumping aboard yourself as a patron or YouTube member to keep the channel alive and kicking. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.